Hey guys, it's Mike Chen. Pokemon Go is awesome. The game is fun and uplifting, well, unless you're one of those people who found dead bodies or walked off a cliff. But generally, the game does a great job of making people feel happy as they throw magical tennis balls at adorable monsters, effectively imprisoning them in the smallest confined space imaginable, and then making them come out to fight each other gladiator style, mainly for the enjoyment of children. But I'll get to that at the end of the video. Speaking of the cute characters, I did a video before talking about where the inspiration for some of them came from, and often they were inspired by cute and cuddly creatures, but that's not always the case. In fact, some of the origins for Pokemon characters are downright frightening. So here are some lovable Pokemon characters with truly disturbing origins. First up on our list is Baynet. Baynet is a ghost Pokemon with its Pokédex entry basically describing it as a doll that became a Pokemon over its grudge for being thrown away and now wanders around the world looking for the child who abandoned it. It can't open its mouth, otherwise its cursed energy escapes, and it generates said cursed energy by sticking pins into its own body. So it's basically the child of Chucky and a voodoo doll. But this Pokemon is also inspired by the legend of Tsukumogami or artifact spirits, which are spirits of random items that have been around for at least 100 years, and thus will become a supernatural being with awareness and the ability to move. And if you were nice to the item before, then the spirits will be peaceful and friendly. But if you were mean or wasteful towards it, then the Tsukumogami will become malicious and will try to take revenge on the owner. So if you're living in an old house or collect antiques, you better be really nice to them. Maybe say hi every morning, ask if they need anything like WD-40. People might think you're crazy, but that's better than being eaten by a house. Next, Mischievous is another ghost type Pokemon that looks like a floating head wearing a terrible ghost costume with flowing hair. According to the Pokédex, these things are like Pokemon versions of YouTube pranksters. They love to pull people's hair from behind and scare them just to see their shocked reactions. Mischievous is based on Nukakubi, which are monsters found in Japanese folklore that appear to be normal everyday people in the daytime, but at night their heads detach from their bodies and they fly around and attack people drinking their blood. So basically a floating vampire head. When in human form, a Nukakubi is identifiable by a thin red line on their necks, which is where their heads detach from their bodies. And anyone can become one of these murderous spirits as long as their thirst for vengeance is strong enough. So maybe if you got into a huge fight with your significant other, go home and check their necks. Number 3 on our list is Lombre. Lombre is a small reptilian water grass type Pokemon that wanders around with a huge plant on its head it uses to collect water. According to the Pokédex, this creature lives at the water's edge, is slimy all over, and enjoys messing with fishermen. In reality, Lombre is based on the terrifying Japanese mythical creature, the Kappa or river child. Kappas are usually described as being the size of a child and resembling a cross between a turtle, monkey, and a lizard. All Kappas have a bowl on the top of their heads which contains water, and if this is ever dry, then the Kappa will lose its powers. Kappas are not just mischievous, they are downright terrifying. They would drag their victims, often women and children, into the waters and eat them. Even today, signs warning about Kappas appear by bodies of water in some Japanese towns and villages. Up next, we have Whiscash, an alien catfish-looking Pokemon with a big W on its forehead. Whiscash loves to predict and cause earthquakes, as does its real-life inspiration, the Namazu, a mythical giant fish that lives under the island of Japan. The giant fish is watched over by the Shinto god Kashima, but whenever Kashima is not paying attention, Namazu will wiggle its tail, causing violent earthquakes. Number 5 on our list is Meiwile. This Pokemon depicts a Japanese mythical creature I talked about before on this channel called the Futakuchi Una. The Futakuchi Una is a creature that has 2 mouths. The stories about Futakuchi Una describe it as a deceptive creature who only shows its true self at the very end of the story. Meiwile draws inspiration from this creature in many ways. First off, you can see that it also has a second mouth and a big one. Secondly, Meiwile is known as the deceiver Pokemon. In legends, the second mouth actually represented how little the women in the stories ate. They would eat so little that a second second mouth would form to represent the mouth that never was. Basically, the second mouth would eat more than the women could ever imagine eating. The lesson here, guys, is that food is important, eat a lot, and never let a second mouth form on the back of your head. Number 6, we have Absol, a dark type Pokemon of disaster. It's not that Absol causes disasters, it's just that it always seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The real life inspiration for Absol comes from a creature in Japanese folklore called Kutabe. Legend says that Kutabe once predicted a deadly plague that would raid a Japanese prefecture. It told the people that hanging a picture of it would prevent anyone from being infected. Ever since then, people worship the Kutabe. Next, we have Froslass, a dual-type ice/ghost Pokemon thought to be inspired by Yuki Una, another fascinating character from Japanese folklore. Yuki Una translates into Snow Woman, but she's often given names like Snow Granny or Snow Hag. Yuki Una is known to be a vengeful ghost of someone who died in the snow. It has the appearance of a beautiful pale woman attracting men who pass by and then killing them. Froslass is similar to Yuki Una because it is both an ice-type and a ghost-type Pokemon. Yuki Una is literally a ghost with ice-based powers. And looking at Froslass closely, you can see that it looks like a demon covered with a sheet of snow. Its eyes also look very seductive, just like Yuki Una. Finally, let's talk about Parasect. This Pokemon is not based on any Japanese myths, but its real-life inspiration is just as terrifying. Ever wonder why when a Paras evolves into a Parasect, it loses its pupil in its eyes? That's because the Parasect is based on Cordyceps, which might just be one of the most terrifying fungi you've ever seen. This thing is like the zombie apocalypse of the insect world. When Cordyceps attack insects, it doesn't just simply kill them, it replaces their tissue and sprouts stems that grow outside of its body, releasing spores so it can infect other hosts. There are many different types of Cordyceps, each for a different species of insects, and ants have it the worst. Once an ant is affected, the plant infects the ant's body and mind, forcing the ant to climb to the highest point it can, and then just wait to die, while the fungus grows out of the ant's body and releases spores into the air. So there you go, guys. They can't all be Pikachu. Also, the more I learn about Pokemon, the more questions I have. And keep in mind, I've never watched the cartoon. I don't know much about the game. But if you think about it, this game is pretty horrifying. It's basically a bunch of kids roaming around the world on their own with a bunch of tennis balls in their pockets, catching wild and often very lethal monsters so they can go and fight each other in these shady gyms or fight actual adult criminals, all to become this master Pokemon trainer person. And as far as I can tell, they're not doing it for money and they don't get paid. So what exactly is the type of currency used in this Poke world? I mean, is Ash eventually gonna have to sell Pikachu? Also, can anyone tell me about these magical brainwashing Pokemon balls? Because as I see it, the Pokemon is wild and dangerous when it hasn't been caught, but as soon as it goes into the ball, even for like a minute, it comes out better trained than Lassie. And for some reason, the monsters all seem very happy to be living inside one of these balls that looks like it's only big enough to fit a plastic toy army guy. So those are my ponderings. If you can help clear any of that up, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. See you later.